In the beginning, a small group of believers gathered in an upper room, trembling with fear and uncertainty. They had witnessed the crucifixion of their leader, but now he had risen from the dead and promised them that he would be with them always. And so, Christ's church was born. The church has endured war, persecution, and heresy for 2,000 years. Saints and sinners, kings and peasants, popes and reformers, all have played their part in the unfolding drama of the church's history. Now in this podcast, the chronicles of this incredible story will be brought to life once again. You will hear of the triumphs and failures, the moments of great courage, and the times of terrible doubt. From the early church fathers to the modern day, you will walk in the footsteps of those who have gone before and discover the rich heritage of the Christian faith. I'm Jared Luttejeboer, a church history enthusiast, lover of Reformed theology, and graduate of Mid-America Reformed Seminary. Join me in each episode as we glance through the windows of the past, catching a glimpse into the lives of those who have come before us and find an opportunity to discover the riches of the Christian tradition. But this is more than just a history lesson. It's an invitation to reflect on the meaning and relevance of the church's story for our lives today. Through the eyes of those who have gone before, we will learn how to live more fully in the present and apply valuable lessons to our daily lives as members of Christ's blood-bought bride. Guided by Dr. Nick Needham's book series, 2,000 Years of Christ's Power, join me on this epic journey through time as we explore the historical wonders of the Christian faith and discover how Christ has been faithful to his church for millennia. This is the Church History Project.
Welcome back to the Forward by Faith podcast. I am your host, Ken Wojnarowski, and today we have another bonus episode, and we are actually highlighting another podcast today. We've got Jared Luttejeboer on this show today, and I'm interviewing him about his podcast and who he is, what he does, and we're going to talk about this epic podcast because I've really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people are enjoying it, and this is in the realm of church history. So, Jared, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much for having me on. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about this project of mine.
Yeah, I've been following it for a while now, but so obviously I know who you are, but who are you? What do you do?
Right. So I guess I probably wear several different hats in life. Professionally, I'm the director of marketing at Mid-America Reformed Seminary, which is located in Dyer, Indiana. Actually, Mid-America is where I earned my Master of Theological Studies degree. So there's obviously a deep connection to the institution here as an employee, but as someone who was shaped during my time here as a student. Before seminary, I did my undergraduate work at then Dordt College, now Dordt University in Sioux Center, Iowa, in digital media production. And so that obviously that's where I got my classical Christian liberal arts education. But I had always wanted to synthesize digital media with Reformed theology in some way as a vocation. And so that's what led me to attend seminary and get my degree. And now I'm in marketing the seminary. So, but beyond those professional credentials, obviously I'm a husband and a father, married to my wife, Maria. We have two boys who are constantly keeping us on our toes. They're at an age right now where like everything is an adventure. So every day just kind of brings its own new challenges. But I think being a dad has really informed me how I approach the podcast in some interesting ways, because when you're juggling a full-time career, family responsibilities, and then trying to pursue a creative passion project like this, you learn pretty quickly that time is your most valuable resource. So
yes.
The Church History Project happens in those little pockets of time that most people don't think about. So I'm talking like early mornings before the entire house wakes up.
Oh yeah.
I'll do my morning devotions, and then if I've got some leftover time, I'll do mainly reading and research. Late nights, after the kids are in bed. Breaks every now and then here at the office if I'm afforded it. Some random Saturday or Sunday afternoon, and when I can steal a few hours. So lots of work pours into it, but I think that it's part of what makes it meaningful. Because I don't want to just churn out content for content's sake and just meet some kind of a content quota, but I always describe it as a labor of love that I'm genuinely passionate about, and I think that comes through in the final product. So that's a little bit about me.
Great. And yeah, I mean, being a father is the greatest, right?
Absolutely.
Totally. And we still have time for our hobbies. It just so happens that happens sometimes late at night during nap time or early mornings.
Yeah. Even when we're just tired, I still want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really great, because I think you can see some of the passion you have for the project. So let's talk about the project. What is your podcast?
Sure. So the Church History Project is essentially, I always describe it as cinematic, not in terms of visual, but at least in audio format. So a cinematic narrative journey through 2,000 years of Christian history. You could maybe describe it as like if Ken Burns met Hans Zimmer, sort of a thing, and they decided to do something about church history, but they hired me to do it all. So it's a blend of careful historical narrative storytelling with resonant music. I think I could describe it that way, that tries to help listeners not just learn about church history, but actually experience it in a visceral way. So the backbone of the project is Dr. Nick Needham's phenomenal book series, 2,000 Years of Christ's Power. If your listeners aren't familiar with it, with Needham's work, they should be. I think it's a fine 5 volumes right now, I think.
Yeah.
That surveys the entire scope of church history from the apostolic age to, he's getting close to the modern era. His latest was just released last year, and I think he's in the time of the Great Awakening. But what makes his work so valuable and why I track with it is that he writes not only as a very careful church historian, but he's also very accessible in the way he writes. So he's not doing it in a very dry academic sort of treatment, but he's doing it in a very I don't want to use the word simplistic because that just sounds like there's not a whole lot of work going into it, but it's scholarly without being an ivory tower, if I could say that. And so what I do is I track with the trajectory of his work, and I'm merely just kind of expounding on it. And so he'll have sections that he goes through that are very brief, because again, he's trying to reach more of a lay accessible audience without burdening them maybe with too much information. And so I track with it, and I'm more or less following his timeline. And so I'm building upon it, and I present it in a format that engages people on multiple levels. So you're getting narrative storytelling in that way. I actually asked, I felt like I needed to. I asked his permission if I could follow his trajectory in his books, and he obviously said, "Sure, go for it." And sent him the first episode, and he was pleased with it. And so again, yeah, you're getting narrative storytelling. I don't want to just list facts and dates. I don't want to be regurgitating a Wikipedia article, for example. I want to put my listeners in the room, so to speak, and to help them feel what was going on in a church council, or the terror of persecution, or whatever comes the church's way. And then I'm pairing that narrative with very carefully selected cinematic music. So I'm talking about like orchestral score,
Right.
atmospheric stuff that underscores the emotional weight of what's happening in the story. And so I think music is a powerful tool. I don't think we can deny that. It's a powerful tool for helping people connect emotionally with material. And I think when it comes to church history, why not try to use that? And so it's not just edutainment, though, if I could use a word like that. I always try to draw out practical applications by the end of every single episode, because church history, we can all agree, is not just about what happened back then, but it's about understanding how we all fit into this ongoing story of what God is doing. And so when you study how the church handled persecution, or how the reformers recovered biblical truth, or how missionaries reach unreached people groups, who, whatever have you, you start to see, as the title of Needham's series is called, the faithfulness of God over 2,000 years. And so what I'm trying to do is not just talk about history for history's sake, but to continually point people back to the Lord of that history. And so Jesus will always be at the center of each one of these episodes, as the one who lived, died, rose again for us, and the one who has been faithfully building his church. And so whatever episode is out there, there will always be some sort of a Christ-centered kind of reaction to it that's pointing us back to the foundational truths that have sustained the church through every single age. And so now I've also recently expanded beyond just the podcast itself. I've started Substack just within the past month or so that complements the podcast, I think, in really helpful ways. So the podcast used to be released every single week, and that proved to be very burdensome for me. So now it's being released every other week. And on the weeks where the episodes are not being released, I'm able to just put out. It's easy to write rambling articles, but I at least try to make them sound nice. I publish just very short articles on the Substack that kind of explore a particular theme on the preceding episode, and just maybe provide some additional context with some things that couldn't fit into the format of the podcast itself. So it's just kind of a way of keeping the conversation going and provide ongoing content even when there's not a new episode. But then I've also tried, we'll see how this goes, but I mean, it's working out so far to create premium study guides for the episodes as well. Just short, extra historical nuggets that are thrown in there, but they're comprehensive guides that accompany the episodes and have discussion, group-related questions, reflection questions, journaling prompts, suggested scripture readings, just some extra tools that people could have at hand if they want to engage with the material at a deeper level. So they could be good for like a small group Sunday school class if you wanted to. And so I think the reason why I created those guides is because I want the Church History Project to be something that's not just a podcast eventually, but that grows into some kind of a content library. And Substack, it's worked good for now, but I would imagine that this project that I have eventually expands and grows into a content empire of sorts, where there's lots of readily accessible material for people. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. So I don't have a studio. I don't have a professional production team. I don't have I don't have corporate sponsors.
Not yet.
Not yet. If you're a corporate sponsor listening to this, reach out. like we've said before, we're full-time dads who do this because we love the faith, and we want to tell the story that needs to be told, and we want to tell it well. So lots of hours squeezed into the margins of an already busy life. Yeah. And I think it's worth it. It's exhausting, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, podcasting is fun, right? Especially because we don't just do it to churn out content, like you said, right? The nature of what we're doing is to promote Christ, right? And that is part of our foundational calling as Christians, right? Trying to promote Christ in every way we can, and using this medium to do that. Yeah. I mean, you talked about having that Christ-centeredness to each episode. I mean, you could go to Wikipedia, you could go to an encyclopedia, you could go to Google AI, and you could say, tell me about the different 4 divisions of leadership during the Jewish time when Jesus was around, right? The Sadducees, the Pharisees, the Zealots, the Essenes, right? And you could read all that. Mm-hmm. Or instead of doing that, you could get the basics, the most important information from your podcast with cinematic quality music, and you can get those things in nice digestible portions while you're driving.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I learned that method of creating content from another guy who has a podcast about creating podcasts, and when he yeah, isn't that funny? When he talked about what would make you and your content stand out for your audience, he had that Wikipedia example. Don't just be something that somebody can already go to online and discover information. What actually sets you apart? And I think my podcast is set apart from other church history podcasts out there. As far as I know, I don't think there are others out there that are like it. And so that's why you need to be listening to it, people.
Yeah, and I mean, each episode is roughly 15 minutes to 25 minutes.
It's gotten longer. So when I first started season 1 a couple of years ago, the episodes were really short. Season 2 comes along, the episodes start to get a little longer. And now that I'm in season 3, the episodes are all tracking anywhere from 35 to 45 minutes. So
that's okay though, right?
It's a lot of editing, but it's good.
Well, and one of the things that's essential for the Christians, especially in 2025, 2026, is redeeming our time. Mm-hmm. Right? We spend so much time doing things that we can redeem that time by listening to faithful podcasts about the Christian walk, the Christian life. We can listen to Bible audio, right, while we're driving. There's so much time spent now in driving and doing, menial tasks that don't require complete focus. I would please focus on driving, people. Don't hear me, please. Drive better. Please drive better.
Please do.
But you can redeem that time by listening to the Bible, listening to audiobooks, things like that. But the podcasts that you have put out and other Christian podcasts are essential for using the time that you have to just learn more about who you are as a Christian. And in this case, learn about what led up to Jesus coming to the earth and what happened afterward. Because I think a lot of people have a general idea of church history and just some major events, right? Oh yeah, I know about Nicaea. Oh yeah, I know about these names I've heard. I know about some of the emperors. But there's more to it than just, they were walking around during Jesus' time. Yeah, they interacted with Jesus a little bit. Something they did affected the Christians. Like, Christ is building church history to show God's glory, right? Nothing happens by accident.
No.
And this history is so fundamental to who we are as Christians. It's like people who say, "Well, I'm a Christian, but I don't really need to spend time in the Old Testament."
Right. And I think for any Christian, as a Christian, to say that you love God, you obviously should love His Word.
Amen.
And whatever doctrine is systematized through that's paramount. But to say that you don't care for church history, that's
bad.
That's bad, people. It's a pretty asinine thing to say, because what you're saying in effect is, I don't care about my ancestors. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about spiritual brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers of our faith. We have a relationship to them. These are the faithful witnesses who have gone before us. And so let's do what we can to remember them, not to venerate them. We don't do that.
No, we don't do that.
We don't do that. But to remember church history, and then to see the faithfulness of God building His church. We are living stones being built into this temple of God. And for 2,000 years, that's been going on. And to just act as if this hasn't been going on for 2,000 years and we're the first people to realize that, we're something here in the 21st century, is to go against entirely what God has been doing in redemptive history.
Definitely. I mean, redemptive history is something obviously Mid-America really has built into its students. I mean, you get that, I get that. But we have to understand that it's so much more than just Jesus died on the cross, right? Mm-hmm. Everything has been building to that point. Yep. And then everything just expands out in Revelation throughout the age, right?
We're literally in the church age.
Right.
Before Jesus comes back. Let's learn about it, people.
And it's very easy to see the world does not want us to spend time studying the roots of Christianity. The world doesn't want us to embrace those things because it's easier than to mold your walk with Christ, so to speak, or your Christianity to what you like and not necessarily what being a Christian is really about. So, okay, so let me ask you this. You're in season 3. What are the differences between your seasons? What was the differences there that you were looking at?
So I tried to structure the show in a way that builds logically and gives good context. Again, I'm building off of a trajectory that Dr. Needham was already doing in his book, so that's not new. But it was up to me to figure out, well, what can I do to actually turn these into seasons? I wanted there to be compartments, if you will, that have kind of a running theme through them for the episode. So season 1 was all about laying the foundation. It's a lot of the historical and cultural background, really trying to answer the question, what was the world like when Christianity appeared? Because you can't understand the rapid explosion of the growth of the early church or any of the persecutions or theological battles that it faced unless you understand the context from which it emerged. And I think a lot of this comes from Dr. Needham's very first chapter in his book on the early church. And so that season spends a lot of time exploring the Roman Empire, its politics, its system of governance. I look at the pagan religious landscape, so the Greco-Roman pantheon, mystery religions, emperor worship, philosophical schools like Stoicism, Epicureanism, Platonism, and how those shape perceptions about the divine and ethics and the nature of reality and such. And then I look into the latter half of that season into the Jewish background. And so you're looking at Second Temple Judaism, Pharisees, Sadducees, Essenes, some of the messianic expectations that were circulating during that time. And then, of course, the political tensions with Rome that would eventually explode into war. And so there's a lot of setup in that very first season, but it's very important when you understand the relationship between Rome and Judea in the first century. There's a lot of very important cultural context before Christ is even born. That's foundational for understanding the rest of history that flows from that. And so season 2 was a lot of content that takes place during what you could call the apostolic age, during the time of the apostles. So post resurrection. I start with Paul. I have an episode there on Paul the apostle, James the just, the leader of the Jerusalem church, and then I move into Nero and the persecution that he inflicted upon the church there in Rome. Of course, the great fire of Rome, and how Christians were then being scapegoated and executed because of that. And then I get into the Jewish War, which is a very significant event in church history with the Jewish revolt against Rome, the siege of Jerusalem, and then its destruction, and the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. So just a lot of fundamental changes that happened there, but not only Judaism, but Christianity.
Sure. The Jewish War was a great episode.
And we can talk a little bit more about that when it comes to which episodes, what an episode is like when it's being created and stuff like that. But and that season 2 ends with Emperor Domitian and the Apostle John and his being exiled to Patmos and writing the book of Revelation. And then now I'm in season 3 where we focus on the Apostolic Fathers. So we're talking about... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I say you just released an episode today.
Yes, as of January 13, 2026, while we're recording. Technically, it's the 4th episode because I prematurely released in haste episode 1 of season 3 way back, and I think it was May or something like that, or actually maybe even January. I couldn't help myself. So this is technically episode 4 on Papias of Hierapolis. So tune into that episode if you want to learn more about him and the interesting writings that he penned during the age of the Apostolic Fathers. So, I mean, I had an episode on Clement of Rome in his letter to Corinth, Ignatius of Antioch in his letters that he wrote, the Fragments of Papias, which was released today, Epistle of Barnabas, Polycarp of Smyrna, the Shepherd of Hermas, and the Epistle of Diognetus, which will round out that season. And then moving on to that into season 4, I haven't determined yet what the gap in between seasons will look like. We'll kind of play that by ear. I'm kind of in that season of life. We'll look more into church organization, church worship.
Wow.
During the 3rd century, more or less, during the time of the Apostolic Fathers, and then maybe start to branch into the apologists. So those stalwart defenders of the faith, like Justin Martyr. So that's where I'm at right now. It's been 2 years with this project, and I'm taking it very slow, but that's intentional.
Yeah, it looks like the teaser went out in summer of 2023.
Sounds about right.
Man, it's been a ride. I've been, like I said, listeners, I've been enjoying these podcast episodes. It's really great, especially when I've been mowing, right, or doing yard work, putting the headphones on, and it's just been really great to be able to learn a little bit more about church history. You've always heard of Ignatius of Antioch or Clement of Rome. You probably have heard of them, but doing a deep dive in, right, Clement of Rome is 20 minutes, right? The episode's 22 minutes. You're going to get a deep dive on the Clement of Rome, and it's just good stuff.
I think the longest episode in that season was the one on the Didache. I think it was like 43 minutes or something like that.
Yep. Well, 10 chapters? I mean, you went over every chapter?
I did an exhaustive treatment on the Didache because I felt like the document itself is short enough that, okay, why not just cover it? And then as I'm working on the script for it, I'm realizing, wow, this is a long one just to cover every single chapter in the Didache. But it's a good document to reflect on.
Yeah, if you haven't heard of the Didache, or if you've heard of it but you don't know much about it, definitely point you to that episode, listeners. Okay, so what was your favorite episode that you've recorded?
Well, I would say my favorite episode to put together was the one you pointed it out already, was probably the one on the Jewish War.
It was good, man.
Yeah, that was an epic episode, and I'm not just talking about 70 AD. This episode covers the events of 66.
Yeah, what led up to it?
What led up to it, even post 70 AD. It's just an absolutely riveting piece of history, because you got this powder keg between the Jewish people and the Roman occupiers, and then when it finally explodes, it just leads to one of the most catastrophic events in all of history.
Yeah,
you've got the siege of Jerusalem itself reads like just something out of an epic novel.
Yeah.
You got starvation. You've got internal factions inside the city fighting each other, even as the Romans are surrounding the city, letting the Jews duke it out, while they're just waiting for everybody to die off before they storm the gates. And then you got false prophets making very weird and wacky promises. You've got there's some acts of incredible courage, but absolutely horrible brutality at the same time. And then you've got the final assault, the burning of the temple, the destruction of the city, mass casualties, enslavement of survivors. But even beyond that, you've got Masada and remaining Jews who try to survive on this mountain, and in the end, they end their lives as the Romans build a siege ramp to try and capture them. So, from a production standpoint, that was probably one of the most enjoyable episodes I've created, because the drama is there already in the history itself. It's there, and so my job was to present it effectively. And so finding the right music to underscore the mounting tension of the siege itself and everything leading up to it, the tragedy of the destruction of the temple, and the theological significance of those events, that was all incredibly satisfying. And so when you're pairing cinematic music with this kind of world-changing history, and you get the pacing right, and you help listeners really feel the weight of what's happening, there's a real sense of creative fulfillment in that. And I think this episode too, from a content standpoint, this is a very important episode because this isn't just about the Jews. I tried to do due diligence to the words of our Lord in Matthew 24, and the Olivet Discourse, and Christ's prophecy about the destruction of Jerusalem and what that actually meant theologically for the people. Because for Christians, who are the only people who actually survived the destruction of Jerusalem? They were Christians. They heeded the words of Jesus when he says in Luke that you'll know the end is nigh when you see the city surrounded by armies.
Yep.
And so Christians saw that, and they fled to Pella in the north, I think it's near Jordan, city of refuge, which Pella, Iowa is a city of refuge.
It's something. It's a city of something, that's for sure.
Yeah. But then, of course, Jews who spurned the words of our Lord, put him to death, and now they're receiving this judgment by way of Roman destruction. That's key when it comes to the practical application of this of the end of the episode, when it talks about fulfillment of prophecy and how the temple is now done away, because Christ and his church are the temple now, and the sacrifices have ended because the final sacrifice has come. And so for Christianity, the Jewish war is incredibly significant. And when Jesus himself and his church are being vindicated by this mass slaughter and destruction of a people by Rome, we don't hardly think about that. And so that's what this episode is trying to do. And so when I created that episode, I knew that I was dealing with material that required very real responsibility in presenting it right.
Yeah.
I didn't want to just sensationalize it or just present it as mere entertainment. I really wanted to help listeners understand the human tragedy that was at work here. And then, of course, the theological implications and the way that God was working sovereignly to bring about his purposes, even through these horrific events. And so that there was a lot of research, a lot of cross-referencing different historical sources. Did a lot of reading of Josephus, who had firsthand account with maybe some embellishments in his work. Checking modern scholarship, just reading articles online, just to make sure that I was representing things accurately. And so, and that's not just for the Jewish War episode. That's true of every episode of the Church History Project. But maybe especially notable with something as significant as the Jewish War, because that's a long episode, and there was a lot of historical tidbits and things that I wanted to get accurate. I mean, I even have a whole section on how the city of Jerusalem itself was outlined militarily and strategically, and how the different factions of the Jews set themselves up in that way. And so lots of reading of primary sources and certain scholarly treatments, making sure that the timeline of events is correct, making sure that what I'm presenting isn't mere embellishment, but is pretty concerned with this actually happened, and I'm trying to be accurate when I say this and real, and trying to figure out what are the important elements to include, what are some things that can be left out, and just creating a narrative that's both engaging and accurate. Writing a script that sounds natural enough and engaging enough when it's spoken aloud. Obviously, then recording it, editing the audio, selecting it, editing and remixing all of the music to create an episode like this is a delight for me to do, especially when it comes to very complex topics. It's just fun to do all of this.
Oh, sure.
And so history matters, and so putting the work the work into this matters.
History matters. We're gonna copyright that now so that nobody can start a podcast called.
There
History Matters.
already is a podcast called Church History Matters. So
Okay. All right. Never mind. We lose. And one of the things that I think is overlooked because we don't study church history is how much of a thorn Israel was to the Roman Empire.
oh yeah,
The Roman Empire spans this, the known world, right? And this tiny little people group is causing Rome some of the most chaotic heartburn in the empire.
yep.
Much more than the Germanic tribes to the north, right? We watched the movies of King Arthur or those when they went to start conquering up north. No. This small little town, in the grand scheme of the world, is causing so much issue, and they can't even get in. The siege lasts for a long time because the Jews are so well prepared. It's crazy.
It's a stubborn people. I mean, and even in season 1, there's an episode that is called what is it called? Journey to 30, and the reason why I titled it that was because I am now outlining the relationship between Rome and Israel leading up to the events of 30 AD or 33 AD and the crucifixion of Jesus. The relationship that Israel or Judea, the land there, had with Rome goes back even in BC. Post Maccabean revolt, you've got Rome, who's now on the world stage, and the relationship between them and Israel starts out in a very minute fashion, a small way, and yet in retrospect, when we read that, we're just like, wow, look at where this is actually going to go, though, and how Christianity is going to fit into this relationship between a world empire and this spit of real estate in the Middle East. It's unreal. It's so bizarre. And so just talking about that stuff is a delight.
Oh, totally. And it's not just Rome, though, right? Throughout all history, Israel is literally this thorn against all empires. Everybody has to travel through Israel to get from north to south. It's insane.
See, church history, we talk about church history as if it's just, a post New Testament thing. But church history begins all the way with God's covenant with his people. Abraham, even the covenant of works with Adam, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Because the church is not just a New Testament body. The church is the ecclesia, it's the people of God. Israel was the people of God. The church today is the Israel of God. That's is my Reformed angle coming out. I think here's something I haven't mentioned yet. I'm not being neutral when it comes to this church history episode. I do make it known that I am Reformed and Presbyterian.
Yes.
Not very explicitly, but it comes out. So the episode that's going to be releasing soon on the Epistle of Barnabas, there's a lot of conversation about supersessionism and how the church has replaced Israel. Well, I have something to say about that in that episode. So it comes out every now and then, but people will know that I'm not throwing in embellishments or anything like that. I'm not going to be endorsing the veneration of saints or anything. You're going to know I'm a Protestant. Let's put it that way. So,
well, and being Presbyterian is being right. So.
When I say Presbyterian, I mean more or less how I see a form of government. I'm technically Dutch Reformed. So.
Well, right, but
yeah,
and that's what Presbyterianism functionally is. It refers to the form of church government.
Yeah,
and I think it's very plain to see that the Presbyterian form of church government is really well done, whereas even the Dutch Reformed government isn't always super well done.
We do our best.
Yeah,
we learn from each other. We have Heidelberg.
Heidelberg's great. I love Heidelberg. It's Heidelberg 1 is fantastic, and Heidelberg is really great to preach through because it was designed to be preached through.
I'm glad you're a Presbyterian who's okay with catechism preaching. Virtual high five.
Yeah, I'm okay with catechism preaching. I guess I went to Mars, so I definitely took a class on it. But I've preached a sermon on Westminster Shorter 1. I obviously use the Bible as my
Well, yeah.
my text, and we read the Bible, and then obviously relate. But if you read the entire Bible, everything points to us that our chief
Yeah.
end is to glorify God.
Well, this just reminds me that, obviously it's probably going to be several years until I get to a section on the Reformation. But I tell you, when I do, that is going to be so much fun doing episodes on the life of Luther and of Calvin and wars between Roman Catholics and Protestant. I mean, it's a field day in Europe during the 16th century.
There's a lot there, man.
Yep.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
It's going to be epic. We're excited. Well, I think this has been a really good overview of your podcast and church history here. It's really helpful, I think, for people to understand the importance of church history. And, if there are any sponsors listening, Jared and I will give you a 2-for-1 deal, right? If you want to sponsor the podcast, we will gladly do that together. But one of the things that Jared has done and I have done is we have a page called Buy Me a Coffee. It's basically a simple way for you to help support the podcast. You can donate monthly if you want. You can donate one time. Every little bit helps because we try to put out really quality, good content for you. I know I do. I know Jared spends hours researching these episodes and the music, and he's doing a great job on that too. So if you'd like to support either of our podcasts, we'd love to have you as a supporter. And as well, if you support the Forward by Faith podcast, I would love to send you a sticker. So go to Buy Me a Coffee, and I will send you a sticker. Jared, anything else? Anything else you got for us today? Any parting shots we need to
study church history, learn about your spiritual ancestors, and be blessed.
Amen. And if you're trying to get a nice, concise idea of how to talk about the Church History Project podcast, I'm going to submit to you a very quotable thing I heard said once. It's as if Ken Burns met Hans Zimmer. I love that. That was great.
Isn't that good? Yeah. Also, subscribe to the Substack if you wish as well. That way, I mean, you'll get the podcast right in your email inbox when they're released, and as well as the articles that I put out.
And we'll link your Substack in the show notes. But friends, something, and maybe Jared already talked about it, but one last thing. All of his episodes come with discussion questions. So you could listen to the episode with somebody, and then you could go over the discussion questions, or you can just do them yourself to help understand the content better. Jared alluded to earlier that you could do this as part of a small group or something like that. But when you go to the Substack, you will get those study guides sent directly to you.
As a premium.
Oh, as a premium. Sorry,
yes.
The study guides are premium. The discussion questions are part of the episode. So he's got a lot of time spent on this, and he wants to see the people come to understand that church history is very important. So, Jared, it's been wonderful to have you on the podcast. So thankful for our friendship and our time at Mid-America together. We even took a class together.
Eschatology.
Yeah. Yep. It was my first class at seminary.
The first and the last class on the last things together. So.
Yes, indeed. So
this has been great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, brother. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Forward by Faith podcast. If you've enjoyed this, we're glad. If you want to learn more about the Church History Project, take a look at the show notes. Look for that on anywhere you find podcasts. And as well, if you are interested in supporting either podcast, you can find that information too. The goal here is not to make money. The goal here is to promote Christ. The goal here is to make Christ known to the nations and to prepare us, the church, for the battles ahead. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may you go forward by faith.